5 times Max Verstappen didn't win the Singapore Grand Prix. The next race on the 2025 Formula 1 calendar is at the Marina Bay circuit in Singapore. Always an amazing spectacle under the city lights as the race is run at night. The current world champion, Max Verstappen, has won on every track they race on this season, except this particular race in Singapore. For some reason, the Dutchman doesn't gel with this track, even if he raced there many times. Let's look at 5 occasions where, due to unforeseen circumstances, the world's best driver didn't win. Max Verstappen has driven the Singapore Grand Prix 9 times. His first time was in 2015 as a rookie for Toro Rosso. He was only 17 years old as the race was on the 20th of September. His birthday is on the 30th. Remember that if you want to send him a card. 2 things stood out in this race. I'm sure that the OG fans already know what's coming, but the newer fans most likely want to hear this. The first thing was a terrible start. His engine stalled, and by the time they got it going, he was a lap down. Therefore, it looked impossible for him to score any points. But we know what Max is like, and he just started racing against himself, extracting everything he could from the car. And then his fortune changed. There were a few incidents, like a man walking on track, that saw him crawl back into the points. He overtook Romain Grosjean, but so did Max's teammate at the time, Carlos Sainz. The Spaniard had fresher tires and was quicker. Therefore, the team made a plan that caused the second major boiling point of the race. They asked Verstappen to let Sainz by. Big mistake. Verstappen don't let teammates by. Who did they think he was? A McLaren driver? So Max let out a no that was heard into the eternity, and it cemented him as the headstrong driver he turned out to be. So Max Verstappen finished his first Singapore Grand Prix in P8 after a lap down. The next race on this list of 5 is the race in 2017. In 2017, Verstappen was a Red Bull driver for over a year, and there was a good chance that he'd win this edition of the Singapore Grand Prix. He started on the front row with Ferrari driver, former Red Bull driver Sebastian Vettel on pole, and the other Ferrari driver, Kimi Räikkönen, in P3. These 3 would be the main characters in the drama that would follow. Kimi Räikkönen had an amazing start from P3 and therefore got himself alongside Verstappen, who had an amazing start as well. So he was right beside Vettel. The 2 Ferrari drivers sandwiched Verstappen and they all made contact. Kimi and Max crashed out straight away, taking poor Fernando Alonso with them, showing he was the unluckiest driver ever, even as far as 8 years ago. And Vettel's car was also damaged, so he spun. And that was his race over too. Everyone blamed each other, but the FIA said there was nobody predominantly to blame. However, the Ferrari team on Twitter had a different opinion. First, the Ferrari account on Twitter posted, Fer took #Kimi7 out, and then he went to #Seb5. This caused a bit of a storm on Twitter, as this was totally not what happened. And Max's father Jos came to the rescue of his talented son and posted this, saying, I have nothing more to say. You can clearly see in this picture that Maxi had nowhere to go. Apparently the tweet wasn't placed by the head of communications at Ferrari, therefore you'd think they'd take it back. But instead they doubled down by saying, what we tweeted was a factual description of events. No need to speculate on this. Ferrari has always been a bit of a clown show. Then again, maybe they did this to take away attention from Vettel losing the championship to Hamilton by giving him a free win. In that case, it was pretty smart, because it was all everyone talked about. If you're enjoying this video, here's 3 seconds to leave a like. Things went wrong for Max Verstappen in 2022 during qualifying. It was a qualifying session on a drying track, so every lap the driver set in Q3 was faster and faster. Therefore, lap after lap, they told Max to abort the current lap to cool down the tires a bit to start another flying lap. But just before the session finished and Verstappen was on a great lap that would have gotten him pole position, Max's race engineer, Giampiero Lambiase, came over the radio and told him to abort that lap and try again, which he did. Halfway through that lap, Max was told to pit. Max Verstappen lost his shit at that moment.
Why? What the fuck? What the fuck?
And questioned why he had to do that. Well, it was because they had underfueled the car and were afraid they wouldn't be able to provide the FIA with the 1 litre sample required for testing the fuel. It was a big shambles that saw Max start in P8. He drove that race angry, and at one point he had the mother of all lockups trying to overtake Norris for P4. Legend has it that the track marks are still visible. Well, better luck next time, right? Ah yes, the legendary 2023 season for Max Verstappen and Red Bull, where they dominated in that magnificent beast of a car, Rocky, aka RB19. Max Verstappen won a record-breaking 19 Grand Prix that season, and Perez won a few as well. Red Bull were on a run to win every single race that year. And then Singapore came along. See, that fantastic RB19 started showing certain issues that Red Bull kind of ignored a little, because they won so much. Perez had already been struggling with the stiffness of the car, and Verstappen also made it clear that there were issues. Singapore is always hot as hell, and they were struggling to keep the tires in one piece at the Marina Bay track. So what happened was that Max Verstappen barely made it into Q3, for then to be knocked out by, of all people, the freshly started Liam Lawson, who replaced Daniel Ricciardo after he had injured his hand in Zandvoort earlier that year. Max Verstappen had to start the race from P11. Oof. He managed to fight back to P5 but saw the smooth operator win the race. Carlos Sainz ruined the Red Bull full sweep. Haha, nice! I checked my analytics the other day and noticed that over half of the people who watch my videos aren't subscribed. You can fix that by clicking the subscribe button, so you'll find my content quicker. It would also help me too, as I have a goal to reach 5k subscribers this year. Thanks a million! Max Verstappen managed a P2 last season, where he finished a good 20 seconds behind the winner, Lando Norris. He wasn't very hopeful after a few difficult free practice sessions, but as is often the case with Red Bull, they found speed at the last moment when they needed it. The P2 in quali was all he could get after he had to break off his first fast lap in Q3 due to a yellow flag. That made the last run a bit tricky. I'm a bit delusional perhaps, but seeing how much progress the RB21 has made on all his predecessors' weaknesses, I'd say Verstappen is in for a win in Singapore. It needs to be good from the start, as there's only one practice session. It's a sprint weekend. Why the FOM chose Singapore of all races to pick for a sprint race is beyond me. Overtaking is very hard there, and the weekend is already tough with all the heat. But it is what it is. Max Verstappen needs another dominant win, and hopefully a difficult weekend for McLaren, so his chance of doing the impossible grows. I'll be glued to the screen for every session manifesting. This season needs it, and Max fans need it, and I'm sure Max Verstappen, after 9 attempts, is ready too. Take care now. Doei doei. Ik kom er zo aan.